What's going on, guys? The Comics Kid 2099 here to talk to you about Wishmaster 2, Evil Never Dies. This is a sequel to the movie Wishmaster, which I have already talked about. This stars that guy with the eye patch from Lost, as well as Holly Fields, Bokeem Woodbine, and Tommy Lister Jr. Corey Haim has a brief cameo here. The President from The Fifth Element, he has a brief cameo here. Not as many "Hey, it's that guys" as the first Wishmaster movie, but still a few faces that I did not expect to see. And in my review of the first Wishmaster movie, I said I had no idea how they were going to do a sequel to that movie without just doing that story again. And it turns out they did a sequel to that movie by just doing that story again. At the end of the first Wishmaster movie, blonde Eva Green wishes that Joe Pilato had not been drinking that day that he was working on the docks. And so the entire events of the movie, all of it, was completely erased because Joe Pilato did not accidentally drop this ancient statue on Ted Raimi. The ruby did not fall off of the statue. That guy didn't grab it and sell it to a pawn shop. None of the events of the movie happened because of this wish that this woman made. And then in this movie, that statue is now in a museum, and there are some people robbing the museum. Some gunfire erupts, and then the gem gets shot off of the statue, and this woman picks it up, and then almost immediately her picking it up accidentally releases the Jinn from the first movie, once again played by the guy with the eye patch from Lost. And then, much like the first movie, because she is the one who accidentally released this creature from the gemstone, she is connected to this creature. And every time he makes a deal with someone, she sees it in her brain, much like blonde Eva Green did in the first movie. But unlike the first movie, when the genie comes out of the gemstone, now he says, "Lo, and there will be a prophecy." And I don't really understand the prophecy. This time, he needs 1,000 souls. And then this woman who accidentally released him from the gem, she will get 3 wishes after that, and then I guess he will be able to take over the world. So the one thing that I kind of complained about in the first movie was that it made no sense to me that blonde Eva Green was for some reason the one who had a telepathic bond with the genie. She was like the 4th person to hold the gem in the present day, but for some reason she was the one who mentally latched onto it, and that was never really explained at all. In this movie, literally the first person to pick up the gem is the main character, and she is the one who accidentally releases it from its prison. And so, okay, that makes sense. We're already on the right track. But then after that, almost nothing in this movie makes any kind of sense at all. And the director and screenwriter of this movie, Jack Shoulder, I was reading about it, and he apparently didn't think that the first movie was very good, and in retrospect, he didn't think this one was very good either. But he was talking about how he just didn't think the first one was any good, and he was reluctant to do this one, and then he was given more or less creative control to do whatever he wanted with this one. And I'm feeling like maybe if he had a little bit of guidance, or if he had someone who wasn't a yes man to say, "Hey, this doesn't make any sense," maybe he would have gotten a little bit of a better movie. I am confused since the timeline was completely erased from the first movie. When the Jinn is released from his prison in this movie, why is there suddenly a prophecy? Why does he have to find 1,001 souls? Other than sequels have to be bigger and better than the previous movie. You can't do something that is the same because people will complain, well, this doesn't feel any better. They want stakes to rise every time there's a sequel. Now, I am of the opinion a sequel does not have to be bigger than the movie that came before, but it does need to be different. This chooses to be both, because in the first one, we're not really told how many souls the Jinn needs before he has enough power to unleash the portal that goes to his dimension and bring everyone else here to take over the world. We're not really told how many wishes he needs or how many people he needs to make wishes, but here we are given a specific number. He needs 1,001 people to make a wish so that he can then get wishes from this woman who accidentally released him. And I'm a little confused, why in this altered timeline, why is there suddenly a prophecy? Who made this prophecy? And can the prophecy be broken? It seems like one of those things where this person who is very crucial to the prophecy, she finds out about it pretty early on in the movie that she would then be able to take turns in the movie to prevent this thing from happening. And spoilers, she does. And so it's really weird. Like, why would you tell this woman about this prophecy? Why wouldn't you just treat her like all these other poor idiots that you've taken their souls from? Don't tell her that there's a prophecy that she can research. Don't tell her that you exist. Try to hide your presence from her entirely. But then at the end of the movie, I'm kind of skipping over a lot of this movie because it is basically the same plot as the first one. At the very end, this woman who is robbing the museum, she feels bad about it, and then her ex-boyfriend is a priest. I thought that was really weird. She is a robber who kills people in cold blood, and her ex-boyfriend is a priest, but okay. Then for her final wish from the genie, she wishes that she did not kill the security guard from the museum heist, and this doesn't make any sense. In the first movie, the wish that Joe Pilato wasn't drinking on the docks, that makes sense because that directly led to the gem falling into the hands of that one guy, then it went to the pawn shop, then it went to the company, then it went to Blonde Eva Green. But here, she wishes that she didn't shoot that security guard, and then somehow that erases the genie from the timeline in the same way that he was erased from the timeline in the first movie, except that the heist, the museum heist, still would have happened. Corey Haim, her boyfriend from the museum heist, he still would be alive, apparently, but in this, the genie disappears, and then this woman is still at the casino where she makes that wish, and then she's there with the priest guy, and she's like, come on, let's go home. But these two shouldn't have even been interacting if the genie had been erased from the timeline. It makes much less sense than it did in the previous movie, and I'm still not convinced that the genie would not have been released if she hadn't killed that museum guy. If she hadn't shot him, then the museum guy probably would have shot her anyway, and that was what split the gem apart, and then that would release the genie, I would think. If it was me, I would have said, I wish that I had not robbed that museum. I wish we hadn't robbed that museum. I wish we had stayed home and watched pizza or watched a movie and ate pizza. Watch pizza, that'd be boring. But her making this wish, I don't see how this would release the djinn from imprisonment. So the director of this movie and screenwriter, he was talking about how, like, oh, the first one's no good. This one, parts of it are good, parts of it aren't. I don't know. I think this one is probably worse than the second one. There are some entertaining moments. That guy from Lost is consistently entertaining. When he doesn't have a gravelly demon voice, he sounds a lot like Matt Berry from Garth Marenghi's Dark Place, and that amuses me. I was kind of surprised to see certain people, like Corey Haim looks totally different here than he did in The Lost Boys. Of course, there's like 10 years difference there, and I think those are the only two movies that I've seen with Corey Haim. I almost didn't recognize him. Then there was the President from The Fifth Element. There was Shocker from Spider-Man Homecoming. So there were times where I was like, oh, hey, cool, it's that person. I recognize him or her. But overall, I feel like the plot is basically the same one as the first one, but it makes less sense than the first one. So if I had a hankering to watch one of the Wishmaster movies, I would probably just watch the first one. I feel like it holds up a little bit better than the second one does. There are some moments here that I kind of like, but overall, I don't think that this movie is very good. So those are my thoughts on Wishmaster 2, Evil Never Dies. I hope you guys liked this video, and if you did, I will see you guys in the future with more videos. In the meantime, have a great rest of the day. Catch you later.